Pleasantville was a place where lawns were always green, houses were painted in soft colors, and everything seemed perfect. It was the kind of town where kids rode their bikes without a worry and neighbors waved hello with genuine smiles. But beneath the surface of this picture-perfect community lay a strict set of rules enforced by the Homeowners Association, or HOA. These rules dictated everything from the color of your mailbox to the height of your grass. And no one took these rules more seriously than Patricia, the self-appointed guardian of Pleasantville's pristine image. The HOA was powerful. It could issue fines for the smallest infractions. People mostly followed the rules because they didn't want trouble. They wanted to live in peace. However, the desire to have everything perfect came with a price. Sometimes, people forgot that kindness and understanding were more important than perfectly trimmed hedges. Pleasantville felt safe. It was a place where everyone knew their neighbors. However, beneath the calm, there was a simmering tension caused by the HOA's constant oversight. People worried about making mistakes. They feared Patricia's watchful eye. It was a place where appearances mattered more than people sometimes. The desire to conform often overshadowed the need for compassion. This set the stage for a day that would change Pleasantville forever, revealing the true heart of its residents and the consequences of taking rules too far. In the heart of Pleasantville lived Lily, a bright and imaginative 10-year-old girl. Lily loved to draw, filling notebooks with colorful pictures of fantastical creatures and faraway lands. But Lily wasn't like the other kids in Pleasantville. She used a wheelchair to get around. However, her disability never stopped her from enjoying life. She had a spirit that shone brighter than the Pleasantville sun. Lily lived with her dad, Alex Johnson. Alex was a police commander, a hero in the real world, not just in Lily's drawings. He was strong and brave, but his greatest strength was the love he had for his daughter. Being a single dad and a police commander was hard. He often worked long hours, solving crimes and keeping the city safe. But no matter how busy he was, Lily always came first. Alex was very protective of Lily. He knew that the world wasn't always kind, and he wanted to shield her from any harm. He made sure she had everything she needed, from special art supplies to a ramp that allowed her to easily get in and out of their house. He always looked for ways to make her life easier and happier. He wanted her to feel normal, despite her disability. Alex worried about Lily fitting in. Pleasantville was a place where everyone strived to be the same, and Lily was different. He hoped the other kids would see her for who she was, a smart, funny, and incredibly talented girl. He knew she was special, and he wanted everyone else to see it too. Patricia, with her perfectly coiffed blonde hair and crisp linen outfits, was the self-proclaimed guardian of Pleasantville's aesthetic purity. She took her role in the HOA very seriously. Her days were spent patrolling the neighborhood, clipboard in hand, searching for even the smallest violations. A weed growing in a flower bed? A trash can left out too long? A slightly faded paint color? Patricia would document it all, ready to issue a stern warning or, if necessary, a hefty fine. Some people whispered that Patricia had no life beyond the HOA. They said she thrived on the power it gave her, the ability to control the appearance of everyone's homes. She seemed to enjoy finding fault, correcting others, and ensuring that everyone followed the rules, no matter how trivial. Patricia believed she was doing what was best for Pleasantville. She felt that maintaining high standards kept property values up and ensured that the community remained a desirable place to live. She saw herself as a protector, shielding Pleasantville from the chaos and ugliness of the outside world. Her car, a shiny silver sedan, was practically her mobile office. It was equipped with a camera for documenting violations, a measuring tape for checking grass height, and a collection of HOA rulebooks. She even had a special parking spot at the community center, marked HOA enforcement only. Patricia was always on duty. She was always watching. And she was always ready to enforce the rules, even if it meant making someone's day a little bit worse. The sun shone brightly on Saturday morning, and Lily was excited. Alex had promised to take her to the community park to draw. The park was one of Lily's favorite places. It had a big playground, a sparkling pond with ducks, and plenty of shady trees. Alex had even arranged for a special picnic table that was the right height for Lily's wheelchair. They arrived at the park, and Lily immediately started sketching. She drew the ducks waddling near the pond, the children laughing as they swung on the swings, and the fluffy white clouds drifting across the blue sky. Alex watched her, his heart filled with love and pride. He was happy to see her so content. Suddenly, Alex's phone rang. It was his captain, calling about an important case. A robbery had occurred downtown, and they needed Alex's expertise. He sighed. He hated to leave Lily, but he knew he had a duty to fulfill. "Lily, honey, I need to take this call," Alex said, his voice apologetic. "It's important. I'll be right over there," he pointed to a bench a short distance away, "where I can still see you." "Okay." Lily nodded, her eyes still focused on her drawing. "Okay, Dad. Be careful." Alex smiled, relieved. "I will. I'll be back before you know it." He walked towards the bench, answering his phone. He kept a close eye on Lily, even as he discussed the details of the robbery. He never let her out of his sight for long. He just wanted to help solve the case and return to spending time with his daughter. It was a difficult balance, but he always tried his best. Patricia, on her usual patrol, drove slowly through the park's parking lot. Her eyes scanned the area, searching for any violations. That's when she spotted it, Lily's modified van. The van was specially equipped with a ramp and hand controls to accommodate Lily's wheelchair. Because of these modifications, it was slightly longer than a standard vehicle. Patricia noticed that the van's back tire was just barely over the painted line of the parking space. It was a minor infraction, barely noticeable, but to Patricia, it was a clear violation of HOA Rule 37B, all vehicles must be parked entirely within the designated parking space. She parked her silver sedan and got out, clipboard in hand. She marched towards the van, her face set in a disapproving frown. She began writing a ticket, carefully noting the license plate number and the exact nature of the violation. As she was writing, Lily looked up from her drawing. "Excuse me, ma'am," Lily said politely. "Is there a problem?" Patricia didn't even look at Lily. "You are parked illegally," she said sternly. "Your vehicle is over the line." "Oh, I'm sorry," Lily replied. "It's a modified van for my wheelchair. It's a little longer than usual." Patricia finally looked at Lily, her expression unchanged. "That is not an excuse. Rules are rules. You will receive a fine in the mail." She finished writing the ticket and stuck it under the windshield wiper of the van. "Make sure this doesn't happen again." Patricia began to walk back to her car, feeling satisfied that she had upheld the standards of Pleasantville. She didn't realize the chain of events she had just set in motion. Just as Patricia reached her car, a wisp of smoke curled from under the hood of Lily's van. At first, it was faint, almost unnoticeable. But then, it thickened, turning from white to gray. "Hey!" Lily shouted, her voice filled with alarm. "Smoke! My van!" Patricia stopped and looked back. She saw the smoke and her eyes widened, not with concern, but with annoyance. "Great," she muttered. "Just great. Now I have to deal with this." Suddenly, a small flame flickered from under the hood, quickly growing larger. The smell of burning plastic filled the air. Panic started to creep into Lily's voice. "Fire! Help! My van is on fire!" Patricia, instead of rushing to help, took a step back. Her first thought wasn't for Lily's safety, but for the potential damage to the park. "Someone call the fire department," she yelled, but she didn't reach for her own phone. The flames grew rapidly, licking at the windshield and spreading across the hood. The situation was escalating quickly. It was no longer a minor inconvenience, it was a full-blown emergency. But Patricia seemed frozen, unsure of what to do, her mind still focused on the rules and regulations of Pleasantville. The fire was now a roaring beast, consuming the van with terrifying speed. Patricia, seeing the flames spreading, suddenly had an idea. A terrible, misguided idea. She remembered a fire safety seminar she had attended years ago. They had talked about preventing fires from spreading by containing them. In her mind, she needed to stop Lily's burning van from setting the entire park ablaze. Without thinking clearly, she jumped into her silver sedan. She backed up quickly, then drove forward, positioning her car directly behind Lily's van. Her plan was to block the van, preventing it from rolling backward and potentially igniting the dry grass of the park. What Patricia didn't realize was that by blocking the van, she was also blocking Lily's escape. The heat from the fire was intensifying. The van's electrical system began to fail. The automatic door locks engaged, trapping Lily inside the burning vehicle. "Hey! What are you doing?" Lily screamed, her voice barely audible over the roar of the flames. "I'm stuck. I can't get out." Patricia, focused on her self-proclaimed mission of containment, didn't hear Lily's cries. She was convinced she was doing the right thing, protecting Pleasantville from a potential disaster. She truly believed she was a hero. In reality, she had just turned a bad situation into a life-threatening one. The smoke billowed, the flames danced, and Lily was trapped, completely at Patricia's mercy, and Patricia was completely oblivious to the danger she had created. Several people had gathered around, drawn by the smoke and flames. They watched in horror as the fire consumed the van. Some tried to open the doors, but they were locked. The heat was intense, making it difficult to get close. "There's a girl in there," someone shouted. "We need to get her out." A man tried to pry open a door with his bare hands, but it was no use. The metal was too hot, and the locking mechanism was jammed. Another woman ran to her car to grab a tool, hoping to break a window. "The doors are locked," a young boy yelled, his voice filled with panic. "She can't get out." The bystanders were desperate to help, but they were helpless against the locked doors and the raging fire. They yelled encouragement to Lily, telling her to stay calm, but their words were drowned out by the crackling flames. One brave man ran to Patricia. "You have to move your car," he shouted. "She's trapped. You're blocking her." Patricia, still convinced she was doing the right thing, refused. "I can't move my car," she said firmly. "I'm containing the fire. It's for the safety of the park." The man stared at her in disbelief. "Are you crazy? There's a little girl in that van. Your car is going to get her killed." He tried to pull her away from her car, but she resisted, clinging to the steering wheel. The situation was becoming increasingly desperate. Every second counted, and Lily was running out of time. Alex was still on the phone, discussing the robbery, when he heard the commotion. A shout, followed by another, and then the unmistakable sound of crackling flames. He looked up, his heart leaping into his throat. A thick plume of black smoke billowed into the sky, and he saw the orange glow of fire reflecting off the nearby cars. He instantly recognized the van. It was Lily's. Without a word, he dropped his phone and sprinted towards the burning vehicle. His police training kicked in. He assessed the situation in a split second: fire, locked doors, and his daughter trapped inside. He pushed through the crowd of bystanders, his voice booming, "Lily! Lily, are you in there?" He heard a faint cry in response, barely audible above the roar of the flames. "Dad! I'm stuck." Alex's blood ran cold. He grabbed the door handle and pulled with all his might, but the door wouldn't budge. It was locked tight. He tried the other door, with the same result. The heat was searing, and the smoke was thick and choking. He knew he had to act fast. Every second was precious. He scanned the crowd, his eyes searching for something, anything, that he could use to break a window. "Does anyone have something I can use to break the glass?" he yelled, his voice desperate. "A hammer, a rock, anything." The crowd was silent, stunned by the intensity of the fire and the urgency in Alex's voice. They could only watch as the flames continued to engulf the van, trapping Lily inside. A young woman finally ran forward, holding out a small hammer. "I have this," she cried, her voice trembling. "It's all I could find." Alex grabbed the hammer, his hands shaking with adrenaline. He ran back to the van and aimed for the driver's side window. He swung the hammer with all his might, but the glass didn't shatter. It only cracked, spiderwebbing across the surface. He swung again, and again, each blow weakening the glass, but it still held. The heat was becoming unbearable. Alex could hear Lily coughing inside the van. He knew he was running out of time. Just then, Patricia pushed her way through the crowd, her face flushed with anger. "What are you doing?" she demanded, her voice shrill. "You can't just break the window. You'll damage the vehicle further." Alex turned to her, his eyes blazing with fury. "There's a little girl in there," he roared. "Are you more worried about a van than a human life?" Patricia hesitated, her expression shifting from anger to confusion. But I'm containing the fire," she stammered. "I'm protecting the park." "You're going to kill her!" Alex shouted, his voice cracking with emotion. He turned back to the window, determined to break through, no matter the cost. He had to save his daughter. He had to get to Lily. "You're making it worse!" Patricia shrieked, grabbing Alex's arm. "You'll set the whole park on fire." She tugged at him, trying to pull him away from the van. Alex, fueled by adrenaline and desperation, shook her off with a force that sent her stumbling backward. "Get out of my way," he bellowed. He knew he couldn't waste any more time arguing with her. Lily's life was on the line. He took a deep breath, focusing all his energy on the cracked window. He raised the hammer again, but then he paused. He realized that the small hammer wasn't going to be enough. He needed something bigger, something stronger. He looked around frantically, his eyes searching for a solution. That's when he saw it, a large rock, lying near the base of a tree. It was heavy, but it was exactly what he needed. Without hesitation, he dropped the hammer and ran towards the rock. He bent down, gritting his teeth, and lifted it with a grunt. It was heavier than he expected, but he managed to hoist it above his head. He staggered back to the van, his muscles straining, his vision blurred by the heat and smoke. He knew he only had one chance. He had to break the window, and he had to do it now. Patricia stood nearby, watching him with a mixture of fear and disbelief. She still didn't seem to grasp the gravity of the situation. She was still more concerned about the park than about the little girl trapped inside the burning van. With a primal roar, Alex swung the rock, slamming it against the already cracked window. This time, the glass shattered, exploding inward in a shower of jagged shards. Alex dropped the rock and reached inside, carefully clearing away the remaining pieces of glass to create an opening. Smoke poured out of the van, thick and black, stinging his eyes and burning his lungs. He could barely see inside, but he knew he had to get to Lily. He reached into the van, feeling around for her wheelchair. He found it, and with a surge of strength, he pulled it towards the opening. He struggled to maneuver the chair through the narrow space, his hands burning from the heat. Finally, with a final heave, he managed to pull Lily and her wheelchair out of the burning van. He carried her away from the vehicle as fast as he could, collapsing onto the grass a safe distance away. Lily was coughing and crying, her face streaked with soot. But she was alive. Alex held her close, his heart overflowing with relief. "You're okay, baby," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "You're safe now." He looked back at the burning van, which was now completely engulfed in flames. The fire department sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer with each passing second. They were almost there, but Alex had already done what mattered most. He had saved his daughter. Paramedics rushed to their side, checking Lily for injuries. They placed an oxygen mask over her face and wrapped her in a warm blanket. Alex was also examined, his hands burned and his face covered in soot. "You're both going to be okay," one of the paramedics said reassuringly. "Just a little shaken up." As Lily received medical attention, Alex stood up, his gaze hardening. He looked around at the scene, the burning van, the concerned faces of the bystanders, and Patricia, standing off to the side, looking pale and bewildered. He took a deep breath and straightened his shoulders. His police commander instincts took over. He walked towards the fire truck, which had just arrived, and approached the fire chief. "I'm Commander Alex Johnson, Pleasantville Police Department," he said, his voice calm and authoritative. "I'm taking control of the scene." The fire chief, recognizing Alex's name and rank, nodded respectfully. "Yes, sir. What are your orders?" Alex quickly assessed the situation and began issuing instructions. He directed the firefighters to extinguish the blaze, ordered the paramedics to transport Lily to the hospital for observation, and instructed several officers who had arrived on the scene to secure the area and begin interviewing witnesses. He was back in his element, a leader in charge, his focus sharp and unwavering. The chaos began to subside under his command. Patricia watched in stunned silence as Alex took charge. The realization of what she had done, and who he was, finally began to sink in. She had argued with a police commander, endangered a child, and potentially caused a major disaster, all in the name of HOA rules. She slowly approached Alex, her voice trembling. "Commander Johnson," she stammered. I didn't know. I just thought I was helping. I was trying to contain the fire." Alex turned to her, his expression cold and unforgiving. "You call blocking a burning vehicle with a child inside, helping?" he asked, his voice dangerously low. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't realize Lily was in there," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't hear her. I thought I was protecting the park." "Your actions could have cost my daughter her life," Alex said, his voice unwavering. "There will be a full investigation into this matter. I suggest you cooperate fully." He turned away from her, dismissing her with a wave of his hand. He had more important things to worry about than Patricia's excuses. He had to make sure Lily was safe and that justice was served. The weight of his responsibilities settled heavily on his shoulders. As the other officers began their investigation, the neighbors started to gather around Patricia. They had witnessed her behavior, her refusal to move her car, her insistence on enforcing the HOA rules even as Lily's life hung in the balance. Now, they were ready to speak up. "She's always like this," Mrs. Henderson said, her voice shaking with anger. "Always nitpicking, always finding fault. It's never enough for her. She gave me a fine for having a pink flamingo in my yard," Mr. Peterson added, his face red with indignation. "A pink flamingo?" Said it violated the natural aesthetic of the neighborhood. "She's been a nightmare ever since she joined the HOA, a young mother chimed in. "She even complained about my kids playing too loudly in the backyard." The stories poured out, each one more absurd and infuriating than the last. The neighbors had tolerated Patricia's behavior for too long, but now, after what had happened to Lily, they were finally ready to stand up to her. They told the officers everything, detailing Patricia's past transgressions and her unwavering commitment to enforcing the HOA rules, even at the expense of common sense and compassion. They hoped that their testimony would help ensure that Patricia was held accountable for her actions. The mood in Pleasantville had shifted. The fear and resentment that had simmered beneath the surface had finally boiled over. Alex, despite the chaos surrounding him, kept a watchful eye on Lily. He walked over to the ambulance and gently stroked her hair. "How are you feeling, sweetie?" he asked softly. Lily sniffled and clung to him tightly. "Scared, Daddy," she whispered. "The fire was so hot." "I know, baby," Alex said, his voice filled with tenderness. But you're safe now. I'm here. Everything's going to be all right. He knelt down and looked her in the eyes. You were so brave, Lily Bug, he said, using his special nickname for her. You stayed calm and you listened to me. I'm so proud of you. Lily managed a weak smile. I knew you'd come for me, Daddy. Alex hugged her tightly, his heart swelling with love and gratitude. He knew that this experience would stay with her for a long time, but he also knew that she was strong and resilient. He would be there for her every step of the way, helping her to heal and to overcome the trauma. He would make sure that she knew she was loved, cherished, and protected. Their bond, already strong, had been forged even stronger in the crucible of the fire. He vowed to do everything in his power to make sure she never felt that scared again. He knew this event would change both of their lives forever. Alex watched as Lily was loaded into the ambulance. He knew she was in good hands, but he couldn't shake the feeling of guilt. He had left her alone, even for a few minutes, and this had happened. He vowed to never let anything like this happen again. He turned his attention back to Patricia, who was now surrounded by police officers. She looked lost and confused, her perfect facade finally crumbling. He knew that the legal process would take its course, but he also knew that Patricia would have to live with the consequences of her actions for the rest of her life. He walked over to the lead investigator, Officer Miller. Make sure everything is documented thoroughly, he said, his voice firm. I want every detail, every witness statement. Leave no stone unturned. Officer Miller nodded. Yes, sir. We'll get to the bottom of this. Alex knew that the investigation would be complex, but he was determined to see justice served. He would use all of his resources and experience to ensure that Patricia was held accountable for her recklessness and her disregard for human life. He owed it to Lily, and he owed it to the community of Pleasantville. The events of this day had exposed the dark underbelly of their seemingly perfect town, and Alex was determined to bring the truth to light. The pursuit of justice was about to begin. The investigation began swiftly. Officers interviewed Patricia, who, now fully aware of the severity of her actions, was visibly shaken. She repeated her story, claiming she only wanted to contain the fire and had no idea Lily was still inside the van. Her words, however, rang hollow in the face of the witnesses' accounts and the undeniable evidence of her actions. The police also interviewed numerous bystanders, each providing a piece of the puzzle. They described Patricia's unwavering focus on the HOA rules, her refusal to move her car, and her complete disregard for Lily's safety. Their testimonies painted a damning picture of a woman obsessed with control and blinded by her own sense of self-importance. Meanwhile, forensic investigators examined the remains of the van, searching for clues about the cause of the fire. They determined that it was likely due to a faulty electrical component, a tragic accident that had been exacerbated by Patricia's actions. As the investigation progressed, the media began to arrive, drawn by the dramatic events and the shocking details of the story. News crews set up outside the park, eager to capture the unfolding drama. The story of HOA Karen and the disabled girl in the burning car quickly spread across the internet, sparking outrage and condemnation. Pleasantville, once a symbol of suburban perfection, was now the center of a national controversy. The world was watching. After a thorough review of the evidence and the witness testimonies, the district attorney announced that Patricia would be charged with reckless endangerment and obstruction of justice. The charges reflected the seriousness of her actions and the potential harm she had caused to Lily. News of the charges spread quickly through Pleasantville and across the nation. Many people felt that the charges were appropriate, while others argued that they were too harsh. The debate raged on social media, with some calling for Patricia to be imprisoned and others claiming that she was simply a misguided rule follower who had made a mistake. Meanwhile, Patricia hired a lawyer and prepared to fight the charges. Her lawyer argued that she had acted in good faith, believing she was protecting the community from a fire. He claimed that she had no intention of harming Lily and that the charges were an overreaction. The legal battle promised to be long and contentious. The outcome would have significant implications, not only for Patricia but also for the community of Pleasantville and for the broader debate about the role of HOAs and the importance of compassion and common sense. The future of Pleasantville hung in the balance, as everyone awaited the verdict. In the days following the fire, Pleasantville began to change. The once pristine lawns seemed a little less perfect, the perfectly painted houses a little less uniform. The residents, shaken by what had happened to Lily, started to question the rigid rules and regulations that had governed their lives for so long. A group of neighbors organized a town hall meeting to discuss the HOA and its role in the community. Many people spoke out against the petty rules and the overzealous enforcement, arguing that they stifled creativity, discouraged individuality, and fostered a climate of fear and resentment. "We need to remember that we're a community, not a corporation," Mrs. Henderson said, her voice strong and clear. "We need to support each other, not police each other. The rules are supposed to make our lives better, not worse," Mr. Peterson added. "We need to focus on what's really important: kindness, compassion, and understanding." The meeting ended with a call for reform. The residents agreed to work together to revise the HOA rules, to make them more reasonable and more humane. They also vowed to create a more inclusive and welcoming community, one where everyone felt valued and respected, regardless of their differences. The seed of change had been planted in Pleasantville, and it was beginning to sprout. The town was on its way to becoming a better place, a place where compassion mattered more than conformity. Alex, seeing the outpouring of support from the community, decided to use his position to advocate for greater understanding and inclusion for people with disabilities. He spoke at town hall meetings, sharing Lily's story and highlighting the challenges she faced every day. "Lily is an amazing girl," he said, his voice filled with pride. "She's smart, funny, and incredibly talented. But she also faces obstacles that many of us can't even imagine. We need to make sure that our community is accessible and welcoming to everyone, regardless of their abilities." He proposed several initiatives, including improved accessibility in public spaces, disability awareness training for community members, and increased support for families with disabled children. He also called for a review of the HOA rules to ensure that they did not discriminate against people with disabilities. His words resonated with the community. Many people had never really thought about the challenges faced by people with disabilities, but Lily's story had opened their eyes. They were inspired to take action, to make Pleasantville a more inclusive and equitable place for everyone. The community began fundraising to help Lily get a new van. They also started a campaign to make all the parks in Pleasantville accessible to children in wheelchairs. Pleasantville was becoming a shining example of compassion and understanding. Lily, though still shaken by the fire, began to heal. She started drawing again, filling her notebooks with even more fantastical creatures and faraway lands. She found comfort in her art, and it helped her to process the trauma she had experienced. Alex made sure she had the best therapy available, and he spent countless hours talking to her, listening to her fears, and reassuring her that she was safe. He also made sure she knew that what had happened was not her fault. Slowly but surely, Lily began to regain her confidence. She started going back to the park, accompanied by Alex and sometimes by other children from the neighborhood. She even made some new friends, who admired her talent and her spirit. One day, as Lily was drawing in the park, a little boy approached her. "That's a really cool picture," he said, his eyes wide with admiration. "Can you teach me how to draw like that?" Lily smiled. "Sure," she said. "It's easy. All you need is a little imagination." And as she began to teach the little boy how to draw, Alex watched from a distance, his heart filled with hope. He knew that Lily would always carry the scars of the fire, but he also knew that she was strong and resilient. She would not let this experience define her. She would continue to shine her light, to inspire others, and to make the world a better place, one drawing at a time. The future was bright for Lily. Patricia's life, however, took a very different turn. As the trial approached, she became increasingly isolated. Her neighbors, once friendly and polite, now avoided her. She received hate mail and threatening phone calls. Her reputation was ruined. Even her fellow HOA members distanced themselves from her, fearing that her actions would tarnish the reputation of the organization. She was ostracized, condemned, and alone. The trial was a media circus. The courtroom was packed with reporters and spectators, all eager to witness the downfall of HOA Karen. The prosecution presented a compelling case, highlighting Patricia's recklessness and her disregard for Lily's safety. The defense argued that she had acted in good faith, but their arguments were ultimately unconvincing. The jury deliberated for several hours before reaching a verdict. Patricia was found guilty on both counts, reckless endangerment and obstruction of justice. She was sentenced to community service and a hefty fine. But the punishment that hurt her the most was the loss of her reputation and the condemnation of her community. She was no longer the respected guardian of Pleasantville's aesthetic purity. She was a pariah, an outcast, a symbol of everything that was wrong with the HOA. She had lost everything she valued, all because of her obsession with rules and her lack of compassion. Her life would never be the same. She became a cautionary tale. In the aftermath of the trial, Alex and Lily continued to live in Pleasantville, but the town had changed. The HOA rules were revised, making them more flexible and compassionate. The community center was renovated to be fully accessible, and the park was equipped with wheelchair-friendly playground equipment. Alex continued to serve as a police commander, but he also became a vocal advocate for disability rights. He spoke at conferences, sharing his story and urging other communities to embrace inclusion and understanding. He also worked with local schools to implement disability awareness programs. Lily thrived. She continued to draw, her art becoming even more vibrant and expressive. She entered her artwork in competitions and won several awards. She became a role model for other disabled children, showing them that anything is possible with hard work and determination. She even started teaching art classes at the community center, inspiring others to find their own creative voices. They had both found strength in the face of adversity. They had turned a tragedy into an opportunity to make the world a better place. Their story became a symbol of hope, resilience, and the power of community. They had proven that even in the most seemingly perfect places, compassion and understanding can triumph over rigid rules and blind adherence to conformity. Pleasantville was now truly pleasant. The story of Pleasantville serves as a reminder that even in the most idyllic settings, challenges can arise. It highlights the importance of community, understanding, and quick thinking in the face of adversity. It shows how a single act of thoughtlessness can have devastating consequences, and how compassion and empathy can triumph over rigid rules and blind adherence to conformity. Pleasantville learned a valuable lesson that day. They learned that rules are meant to serve people, not the other way around. They learned that appearances are not as important as kindness, and that community is about supporting each other, not judging each other. They also learned that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. Hope for healing, hope for change, and hope for a better future. And they learned that even a small act of courage can make a big difference. The fire may have scarred Pleasantville, but it also ignited a spark of compassion and understanding that would forever change the town for the better. The town became a testament to the power of human connection and the importance of embracing diversity and inclusivity. The tale of Pleasantville became a story told to children, reminding them to always choose kindness. And so, Pleasantville learned its lesson. The story of the burning van and the HOA Karen became a local legend, a cautionary tale whispered from neighbor to neighbor. It served as a constant reminder of the importance of compassion, empathy, and common sense. The new HOA president, a kind and understanding woman named Sarah, made it her mission to create a more inclusive and welcoming community. She organized neighborhood picnics, block parties, and volunteer events, fostering a sense of connection and belonging. She also made sure that the HOA rules were fair and reasonable, and that they were enforced with kindness and understanding. Pleasantville was no longer a place of rigid rules and petty complaints. It was a place of warmth, laughter, and genuine human connection. It was a place where everyone felt valued and respected, regardless of their abilities or their differences. And as the sun set over Pleasantville, casting a golden glow over the perfectly imperfect lawns and the brightly painted houses, it was clear that the town had finally found its true meaning. It had learned that the greatest beauty lies not in conformity, but in compassion. It had discovered that the true heart of a community is not measured by its rules, but by its kindness. And it had proven that even in the face of tragedy, hope can always triumph. The end.